Guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make this Balenciaga bag. So if this looks like what you're interested in, then you should keep on watching. For this tutorial, you're going to need a size 8mm bead, a 0.7mm fishing line. You need a magnetic clasp, an O-ring. This is the smallest size of it. For sewing the magnetic clasp, you're going to need a 0.50mm fishing line and a sewing needle, and of course you also need a scissors. So you're going to start by cutting the length of fishing line you can handle, and then you place 4 beads and you crisscross with the last one. So now we've successfully made our first ring. To make our second ring, on your left hand side you're going to place 1 bead, and on your right hand side you're going to place 1 bead, and then you take another bead and you crisscross. Now this is the second ring. Now to make the third ring, you're going to place 1 bead on your left hand side and 1 bead on your right hand side, and you take a fresh bead and you crisscross. So this is how it's looking. For the fourth ring, you're just going to repeat the same thing. 1 bead on your left hand side and then 1 bead on your right hand side, and then you take 1 bead and you crisscross. So this is basically the process we'll be continuing. Now we have 4 rings in total. Now I'm heading to making 13 rings, so I'm going to make 8 more rings and I'm going to meet you at the last one. For the 13th ring, you're not going to be placing your beads the way you normally do. You're going to be placing 3 beads only on your left hand side here, and then you're going to crisscross with the last one, just like this. So now this is the end of our first row. Now for row 2, you're going to place 3 beads on this fishing line and you crisscross with the last one. Always remember to pull tight in order for your work to be very secured. Now you're going to take this other fishing line that is facing this side and you place it to the next bead like this, and on the other hand you're going to place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. Now you take your fishing line to the next bead here like this, and on the other hand you're going to place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. Now you place your fishing line to these beads here like this, and then on the other hand you place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. So this is the process you'll be repeating all up till you get to this point here. So when you've gotten to this point here, you're going to place your fishing line to the next bead as usual, and then on this fishing line right here you're going to place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. So now your fishing line will be facing upward instead of the normal way. So now we are done with row 2. Now we are proceeding to making row 3. Now for row 3, you're going to place 3 beads and you crisscross with the last one, just like this, and then you place your fishing line to the next bead, and then on this other fishing line you're going to place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. Place your fishing line to the next bead, and on the other hand you're going to place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. So you're just going to be placing your fishing line to the next bead, you place 2 beads here and you crisscross with the last one. So this is what you're going to be doing until you get to this point here. So when you've gotten to this point here, just as we did in row 2, you're going to be placing 2 beads on this other fishing line here and you crisscross to the last one. So now we've come to the end of row 3. Now for row 4, you're just basically going to be placing 3 beads on this other fishing line here, this one here, and you take 1 fishing line and you cross just as seen, and then you take your fishing line to the next bead, and then you place 2 beads on the other end and you crisscross with the last one. This is basically how you're going to be matting this back until you get to 21 row. If you are a beginner in bead making, you need to watch my previous video. In there I showed how you're going to join your fishing line if your fishing line finish, and how to properly mat a beaded back, in case you didn't really understand what I was doing there. So if you are a beginner, you go and watch that video, and I'll meet you at the 21st row. So when you've reached this point here, you're just going to weave off your fishing line, and then we move to the next phase. At this point here, we have 21 beads lined up. So now you are going to count 8 out. That is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and then you count 8 on the other side out. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Now you're going to be left with 5 beads at the center. Now in between these 2 points, you're going to place your fishing line. After doing that, on the other hand, you're going to place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. So this is how your work will start looking. Now you take your fishing line to the next bead here, the second 5 beads, and on the other hand you place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. Now you go to the next bead and you place your fishing line, and on the other hand again you're going to place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. Now we've walked through 1 2 3 beads out of the 5 beads. Now you place your fishing line to the next bead and you repeat the same thing again. Now this is the last bead out of the 5 beads. Now you're going to place your fishing line through that bead and through the last 8 beads here. And then now you're going to take just 1 bead and you crisscross. This is how your work is supposed to be looking. Now we are done with row 1 for the sides. To begin row 2, you're going to place your fishing line to the next bead here, and on this same hand you're going to place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. So now you're going to place your fishing line through these beads here, and on the other hand you place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. So this is how it's looking. So now you're going to place your fishing line to the next bead, 2 beads on the other hand, crisscross with the last one. You repeat that until you get to this point here. So now when you've gotten to this point here, you're going to place your fishing line through these beads here and through these beads here. And now you're just going to take 1 bead and you crisscross. So now we are done with row 2 for the sides. Now to begin row 3, you're just going to repeat what we did in the beginning of row 2 here. You place your fishing line to the next bead, and on this same fishing line here you're going to place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. Now you take your fishing line to the next bead, and on the other hand you place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. Now you're going to place your fishing line through the next bit. You drop 2 bits on the other hand, crisscross to the last one. You do that until you get to this point here. So when you've gotten to this point here, you're going to place your fishing line through these 2 bits here. And then you take just 1 bit and you crisscross. So now we've come to the end of row 3 for the sides. So you're just going to repeat everything we've been doing in row 2 and in row 3 until you get to this point, and I'll meet you at the end here. So I'm done making the sides and this is how it's looking. So now you're going to repeat the exact same process you did here on the other side. So now I've already done the other side of the back and this is how it's looking. Now it's time to shape the back. Now there are 5 bits here on this side here. There are 5 bits lined up here. Now we are going to be working with just these 3 bits here. So now what we are going to be doing is I'm going to be passing my fishing line. I'm going to be crossing my fishing line in a way that it will come up to this point. So now my fishing line is crossed on this first bit of the 3. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this other fishing line and I'm going to pass it through the remaining 2 bits. Now when I've done that, I'm just going to take 1 bit and I crisscross. So you get something like this. Now you're going to take this fishing line and pass it to the next bit like this, and then you take this other fishing line and you pass it to the next bit like this, and then you take 1 bit and you crisscross. At this point here, you're going to add your O-rings just like this. So I've come to the end of making the sides of the back. So what you are going to do now is that you're going to be weaving the ends of this fishing line. So you're going to repeat everything you did here on the other side, and I'll meet you at the end. So now I've shaped the side for both sides, and so far this is how it's looking. So now we're going to start making the bead back handle. So for the handle, you're going to place a fresh fishing line here, and on this hand here you're going to place 3 beads and you crisscross with the last one. Now you're going to place your fishing line to the next bead like this, and on this other hand you're going to place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. So now you place your fishing line to the next bead here, and on the other hand you're going to place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. So now I've come to a dead end here. I normally call this a dead end. For the dead end, this is literally what you'll be doing. You're going to place your fishing line to the next bead, and then on this bead here you place your fishing line upwards like this, and then you're just going to take 1 bead and you crisscross. I'm going to pull tight to secure everything you've been doing. So now I've come to the end of row 1 for the handle. Now for row 2, we are basically going to be repeating the exact same thing. On one hand here you're going to place 3 beads and you crisscross with the last one. Now you're going to place your fishing line to the next beads, and on the other hand here you place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. place your fishing line to the next bead here, and on the other hand you're going to place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. And when you've reached this point here, you're going to place your fishing line here and you place your fishing line upwards like this to the next bead, and then you take just 1 bead and you crisscross. So you pull tight to secure everything, and then you move on to the next row. So you're going to repeat the process you did in row 1 and in row 2 16 more times, and I'll meet you at the end. Now this is the last one. So when you reach this point, this is how you're going to be attaching. So now you're going to align your handle to the back like this, and you know that this bead here is going to match with this bead here. So now on this other fishing line here, I'm going to place 1 bead, and I'm going to place it to that bead that it aligned, and then I take 1 bead and I crisscross. So this is how it's going to look. So when you've done that, you're going to pull very tight in order to secure your knots, and then on the next bead here you're going to place your fishing line. And you place your fishing line to the next bead here too. Then you take 1 bead and you crisscross. Now you take your fishing line to the next bead here, and you take your fishing line to the next bead here too. Then you take just 1 bead and you crisscross. So now everything is complete. If you check the inner part of this one, the ring gear is complete. So what you're going to do now is you're going to be weaving in ends, but first you need to like go into the next bead here, and then you take this other fishing line to the next bead here, as if you are making another ring, but the ring is already there. Then you cross with this other fishing line. So now when you've gotten here, you're going to pull tight, pull very tight away. Now after you've done this, you're just going to weave in ends and cut out your fishing line. So I'm done weaving in ends, and so far this is how the bag is looking. So cute. Now it's time to make the flap. So you're going to be counting 3 beads out from each side. That is 1 2 3 and then 1 2 3, and then we are going to be left with 7 beads. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So on this first 7 here, I'm going to place my fishing line, and on my left hand here I'm going to place 3 beads and I crisscross with the last one. So this is how it's going to be looking. Now I take my fishing line to the next bead like this, and on the other hand I place 2 beads and I crisscross with the last one. And to the next bead I place my fishing line, and on the other hand I'm going to place 2 beads and I crisscross with the last one. So now I'm going to place my fishing line to the next bead, place 2 beads on this other hand and crisscross to the last one. I'll do that until I get to the 7th bead. So now I've gotten to the 7th bead. I'm going to place my fishing line here. For the last one here, I'm not going to be placing my bead on this fishing line. I'll be placing 2 beads on this fishing line and I'll crisscross with the last one. So now I'm done with row 1 for the flap. Now for row 2 of the flap, I'm going to turn my work And then on this fishing line, I'm going to be placing 3 beads and I crisscross with the last one. Now I'm going to place my fishing line to the next bead here. And on this other hand, I'm going to place 2 beads and I crisscross with the last one. So this is the process you're going to continue until you get to the end here. So when you get to the end here, you're going to place your fishing line as usual on the next bead, and on this same fishing line you're going to place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. So you're going to repeat everything you did in row 2 here 2 more times, and I'll meet you at the end. So when you reach this point here, you're going to weave in your fishing line till it crosses on these beads in order to like form the V. But if you don't want the V to show, you can just like do the next row the way you normally do it. Now to make the V, on this other fishing line you're going to place 3 beads and you crisscross with the last one. So this is what I'm talking about, this V here. So you go to the next bead, you place your fishing line, and on the other hand you place 2 beads and you crisscross with the last one. You repeat that until you get to the second to the last bead here. So now when you've gotten to this point, all you have to do is to weave in your ends and you cut out the fishing line. So the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to be adding our magnetic clasp. So now you're going to open your magnetic clasp like this, and this one that is looking this way will be on this side, and then this one will be on this side. I've placed my 0.50 mm fishing line on my sewing needle. There are 7 rings here. I'm just going to locate the center, which is this one, and then I'm going to like place my needle. Now the remaining one here, I'm going to be weaving in the ends. I'm going to pass this one to a place where is not the front, because I don't want any rough work to be seen on the flap. Now when you get to this point, at least this is not the front, I'm going to tie. So this is how I'm making a knot. So I'm going to pass it. As you can see, it's showing very neatly, it's not showing roughly. So I'm going to pass it backwards again, then I'm going to tie it one more time. And then you cut out. So now my fishing line is very strong. So this is when I'm going to pick my magnetic clasp and I'll start sewing it in like this. So I'm just going back and forth like this. Then I come out from the other O like this, something like that. Then I go back, then I go to this O, then enter. Just do that 3 times, go back to the same O. So now I'm going to go back to this same O again, but this time I'm going to bust to the second one. And I'm going to repeat the same process. So you go to that same O and then you bust to the third O. So that's how you'll be doing until you get to the last O. So now I've gotten to the last O and I'm going to be weaving in the ends of this fishing line. So I'm just going to be passing my beads just like I did for the first line. I'm going to be passing my bead, my fishing line into the holes here. That means I have to cut out this fishing line, and then I use my hand to pass it back to this point, and then I tie and cut off. I'm done with this first magnetic ring, and so far this is how it's looking. So now I'm going to take my second magnetic hook, and then I'll place it here like this, then fold it as it should be. Then wherever that second magnetic hook is facing, this point here, and I'll just use something to mark that place. I just know that it's on this ring that I'm going to be placing the second magnetic ring. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to remove it and then repeat everything I did on the first ring to this point. So you do that and I'll meet you at the end. So I'm done placing the magnetic hook, and so far this is how it's looking. It's very neat here, and even here too. How I wish I had that name tag. I will just use it to cover this old place, but soon. So yeah, that's just it about the tutorial. So lastly, you just have to add your chain, and if you want to add a beaded handle, you add a beaded handle, anyone that looks good for you. We've come to the end of this tutorial, and I really hope you found this helpful. If you did, kindly give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you won't miss out on more content to come. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye.